so different. So I liked that. I wanted that. That's what I was seeking.
Well, the only thing you didn't mention was there wasn't a murder on the Orient Express.
It was not a murder, which is good. But yes, it was just, I don't know. Have you been? Have you been to Morocco?
No, I haven't. No. Like I say, I've only watched it through the lens of a film.
Yeah, or like Steve's, right? I mean, it's just different because, well, first the Google Maps does not work in the old city so it's like good luck, and it's just a maze of these little streets and like similar to a bazaar, and then even your hotel, you just, because you cannot film from above in Marrakech, you cannot have a drone, right? Because it's completely different than what you see walking. So even our hotel, for instance, it was just a insignificant door, but then you opened it and it was just amazing. I mean, it was just the Riad was just, I mean, think of orange trees, and the scent of oranges and marble everywhere, and birds, because some of it is outside, some of it is inside. There's exotic birds, and then you eat on the rooftop and you get to see the city. I mean, it's just like, what is this? And a lot of color, a lot of color, a lot of oranges and green, and I just loved it. You can see, because during the communism, everything was gray. You can see how much I like color. So I'm still excited about color, but yes, it was just so different and unexpected. And of course, we had the spa treatments, which were very unusual, a little intimidating, I would say too. And then we explored the city, and also we took a trip to the Atlas Mountains, and that's, I mean, there was some cultural shock there, because the streets seemed to be in 90-degree angles. I was like, okay, we're just gonna go to our car through what I thought was an alleyway, right? I was like, okay, so instead of going one more block to the left and then going to our car, we can just cut through here. And Alex, I ended up in somebody's living room.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there was a man sleeping, or house. There was a man sleeping on the bed, and a child playing on the floor, and the lady cooking. And I was like, ah. And I turned back towards my family. I was like, what? And they were just unfazed. They just kind of looked at me, and I was like, ah. So there's that. You just never know what you stumble upon and what situation you get yourself into. If it's eaten just on a trip, it's fine, but otherwise it's heavy, right? Because mountain people that had to work with their hands, and that had 6 months of winter, right? They needed hearty meals with a lot of fat and a lot of meat and pickled vegetables, because 6 months of winter doesn't mean that you have lettuce in December, right? So traditionally that has been the Romanian or Bukovinian food, very, very hearty. Now we have these very comfortable lives. We don't do much with our bodies, right? Say we take a flight to Suceava, then we rent a car, or we have a driver deliver us to Fox. We just sit. So it's a different story. I'm not saying it shouldn't be consumed, but it should be a treat. It should be a vacation treat as a nutritionist. So typically it would be meat. Yes, lots of meat, but not so much spiced as in like when you think of Indian cuisine, right? And you think of maybe Persian cuisine, not so much. The excitement is not so much in the spice itself, but the cuts of meat, the way they're prepared. And so meats, lots of cheeses that are typical to the area. It's a highly pastoral area. There's still cows and sheep grazing. You'll see them from Fox too, grazing those mountains. So when it comes to the quality of food, it's very high, because
just thought I'd have a quick word just to recognize that this is the 10th series, an anniversary of a kind. It's been 2 years, 60 guests. I just wanted to say thank you for all of your perspectives on travel and how appreciative I am of your time. It's been absolutely amazing. And now, back to this week's essay. And now, back to this week's episode. And now, back to this week's episode. And now, back to this week's highlights. Veronica, welcome to the Nifty Travel Podcast.
Hi, Alex. Thank you for having me over.
No, you're most welcome. And the first thing I always like to ask my guests is about your earliest memories of travel.
Oh, my earliest memories. Well, I grew up in a communist country, so we weren't as mobile as we are now. I grew up in Romania, and Romania was a closed country for international travel, at least. And even the small domestic trips had to be approved by a party member or whomever. So I remember going to the countryside. I remember going to the Black Sea with my parents, and that was fun. That was memorable. And I think that's my first big travel memory, going to the Black Sea. It must have been 1986, 1987. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a completely different perspective, isn't it, to how most of us are used to traveling today. So, so I guess really, what was it like growing up in that environment? And was there always a strong desire, not just yourself, no doubt, but the people around you, that, or maybe one day this is going to change?
Well, yes, mostly for the people that have lived in Romania before the communists. So that's before World War II. So my grandparents, right, they knew life before the communists. So they had a completely different perspective than my parents, who were born in the 50s and were born in it, right? So they didn't know anything different. But I had this amazing childhood because I grew up in the mountains, in the Carpathians, in the foothills of the Carpathians, on I guess these days we'll call it a biodynamic farm, but back then it was just a farm. And we weren't missing anything because we grew up on the farm, and the forest was always so generous when it came to food, which is a big deal during communism, right? So I had a pretty idyllic childhood. But again, I didn't travel. We did not own a car. Romania has a very good transportation system, a very good train system. So we didn't own a car, so we didn't travel by car. So my universe was very limited geographically to that area. But I think once we became a free country, and I had the opportunity to study in England when I was in high school, when I was a freshman in high school. And then when I got to see the world, I was like, oh, there's a lot more out there. And I guess just like any caged animal, really, like once you let them loose, they just get a taste for it and they want to explore it. So I guess my desire to see the world was maybe also because of that, because we couldn't see the world. I do know my parents wished to explore. I think there was a curiosity, but unfortunately they didn't have the opportunity, or they weren't allowed to during those times. So my mom got to travel with us a lot now as an older person. But yes, it's completely different, my life before and my life after.
Yeah, so I guess it's an interesting thing, you know. I mean, we always think about, you know, what's the outside world going to look like. So, you know, when you first went to England, what were you expecting, and did it meet your expectations? Any surprises?
Oh, everything was just so, it was such a shocker. Because, okay, so these days when we travel, say, okay, so there are places that are still exotic, right? Maybe we travel to Western Europe quite often, but we travel to Northern Africa, right? So it was still like surprising. But these days we can look it up, like what do these people eat, right? Like how do they dress? So we can prepare before a trip. But back then I just went. So it was a giant cultural shock. I, went on a plane to England. We actually went to school in Brighton, which is south of London, and everything was different. I mean, breakfast, like we were used to having a hearty breakfast that was not sweet, right? Like a savory breakfast, and I just remember being fascinated by the little cereal boxes. I know it sounds silly, but in the marketing, right? Because in a communist society, there's no marketing because there's no free market, and it's a centralized economy. So everything is determined by the government. Hence, there's no need for marketing. You don't need to promote anything. So the marketing, right? The fact that there are characters on, and I know it's silly now, but there was so much color, and people were so colorfully dressed, and it was a big culture shock, I would say, in every single way, right? In every single way. And I loved it, and I took it all in. Of course, I was 14, so I don't know if I thought about it that much. I just kind of, kids are highly adaptable. So it was the time of the Spice Girls, right? The wannabe, and it was just that. So I just kind of walked into it, and I just adapted right away. So that was a big deal. And then my parents had a bit of a bed and breakfast, I would say, and we got to have host people from all over the world, which was great for us. It was a great opportunity for me to practice, for my brother and I to practice English, and we got to meet people from all over the world. And two of our guests, I would say they're pretty notable. It was a couple from South Africa. Now, if you look at the globe, South Africa and Romania, they're pretty far, and mostly for the 90s, right? Bless their heart, I have no idea how they decided to go to Romania in a time when, obviously before the internet, and no bilingual signs, and no travel times, and no coach schedules. I have no idea, but I think they're very brave. But Mr. Archer, was on the team, on the South Africa team that performed the first heart transplant. And Miss Archer was a pharmacist, from what I remember. But the cool thing is that after they left Romania, after that trip, they went to England, I guess, where their kids were. And they wrote an article about the experience in Romania. And honestly, I always thought we had it really, I thought we had an amazing life. I didn't think we were missing anything. But seeing it through their eyes, I was like, oh, okay. Like, for instance, we didn't have a dishwasher, right? Or a blender, or everything was pretty much done by hand. So seeing Romania through their eyes was kind of different, but their perspective was very kind, and they appreciated the fact that there was a sense of community, and everybody participated, and we were very close as a family. But when it came to the level of development of Romania, I was like, oh, that's how it looks like from the outside. So yeah, so that was kind of an experience. But yeah, so I was exposed to different people from around the world. The area I was born in is called Bukovina. Bukovina is in northern Romania, and it is highly touristic because of the medieval monasteries. There are about 5 or 6 in the area. So that's the big attraction. That's why people from all over the world come to that part of the country. So yes, grew up in a very closed, grew up in the darkness, but then had a lot of exposure to people from all over the world. And then, of course, my time in England. So again, being that I was young, I just took it all in. I absorbed it all. So yes.
So I suppose then, as a result of that, and meeting people from all over the place when you were in England, was that part of your inspiration to want to travel to some of these seemingly exotic locations yourself, or was that something that came much later?
I think I always wanted to see the world after I got a taste for it. Right? I was always curious. And then after moving to the United States and going to Europe to see my family, every time we went back to Europe, which was once or twice a year, we took a lot more time to see other countries because, it is a big flight from the United States. It's a long flight to Europe. So if you're going there, may as well just do a lot more. So since we were going to Romania every year, we usually take about a month. So about a month, I used to take 2 months, but now about a month, and visit other countries. And it has been great. I had the opportunity to homeschool my daughter for 9 years, which meant that we did not have a time restraint. Like we could just stay as much as we wanted to. So I had some pretty amazing experiences exploring the world with her. And then my husband would join us whenever his job allowed him to, or for as long as his job allowed him to. And it has been great. So her schooling was, I know, a lot of exposure to the world, but not through books, like through actual contact with the world. Like we didn't study David. We actually saw David in Florence, right? Like we didn't just study. We actually got to experience it. And travel teaches you so much, right? As you know. And travel humbles you and challenges you because you can get very comfortable in your home and in your environment. And if you're not challenged, you don't grow, right? So travel does challenge us. And I think from looking back through this, having this experience with you and looking back, I'm realizing that it all kind of came full circle because we opened a micro resort, a small chalet in Bukovina, northern Bukovina, where now we can share these gifts and this experience with people coming to see the area. So yeah, I guess now that I talk about it, it seems like it's full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the places that have had meaning to you. We're going to spend quite a bit of time on one place, but I just wanted to talk about some of the other places that you mentioned to me before we came on today. So what is it about Marrakech that, well, attracted your attention, and having gone there, you thought, wow.
Alex, I think because of globalization, I think the world is pretty uniform right now, right? Like, I don't know, you can go to Paris and have a croissant, but you can have it in New York City. You can have it, I mean, of course, not the same, but back in the day, we used to have to travel to Germany to eat Haribo, right? But now we can get Haribo at any airport. I don't know. So the world is more, I don't know, the same in some aspects. But then when you travel to these exotic places, and Marrakech being one of them, it's just such a cultural shock. It's like, whoa, I just did not expect this. And I've had that experience before when I traveled to Istanbul in the early 2000s. I went back to Istanbul more recently, and it had changed so much. So say, for instance, in the early 2000s, you still sit on these tiny little chairs in Istanbul at a little tea shop and have apple tea in their little glass containers, and then they would be making this pita next to you and be eating it. And then I went back, I don't know, a few years ago, and then you're asked for tea and you're given this mug, and you're like, no, can I actually have that? So the world is changing, and I was a little sad to see that Istanbul had changed so much. It pretty much became like any other country in Europe to some extent. So I was kind of seeking that old world feel, or I was kind of seeking something else, and I wanted my daughter to experience that. So it was something else. Marrakech is just, it feels like you're going back to time, and you're stepping through a portal. You're stepping into a story, like one of the Arabian Night stories or something like that. It's just, the culture shock is huge, or at least it was for me. And I'm talking about the smells, the colors, the sounds, the intensity of the country and of the city, and it's just so different, so different. So I liked that. I wanted that. That's what I was seeking.
Well, the only thing you didn't mention was there wasn't a murder on the Orient Express.
It was not a murder, which is good. But yes, it was just, I don't know. Have you been to Morocco?
No, I haven't. No. Like I say, I've only watched it through the lens of a film.
Yeah, or like Rick Steves, right? I mean, it's just different because, well, first, the Google Maps does not work in the old city, so
Yeah.
it's like, good luck. And it's just a maze of these little streets, and like similar to a bazaar. And then even your hotel, you just, because you cannot film from above in Marrakech, you cannot have a drone, right? Because it's completely different than what you see walking. So even our hotel, for instance, it was just a insignificant door, but then you opened it and it was just amazing. I mean, it was just, the Riad was just, I mean, think of orange trees, and the scent of oranges, and marble everywhere, and birds, because some of it is outside, some of it is inside. There's exotic birds, and then you eat on the rooftop and you get to see the city. I mean, it's just like, what is this? And a lot of color, a lot of color, a lot of oranges and green, and I just loved it. You can see, because during the communism, everything was gray. You can see how much I like color.
Yeah.
So I'm still excited about color. But yes, it was just so different and unexpected. And of course, we had the spa treatments, which were very unusual, a little intimidating, I would say too. And then we explored the city, and also we took a trip to the Atlas Mountains. And that's, I mean, there was some cultural shock there, because as you're driving, you see these vendors that are selling meat, but it's not refrigerated in some sort of, it's just like the animal that's stretched out. And I guess people just go and just buy a chunk of meat. It's just like, okay, I guess that's how it goes. And then you go into the desert, and the mountains are beautiful. And then there's these pools and oases, and you can swim in them. And you're like, what am I doing? And there's camels, and I don't know, it's just something else. So for people that want to be surprised and want to marvel at something and are seeking the unexpected, I would say yes, there's still places like that around the world.
Yeah. Now, your description of the roofs, it reminds me of a few places that I've been to in Italy, where you see the rooftops, and because the buildings are so close together, it's a completely different perspective when you walk amongst it. So yeah, there are many cities still like that if you're willing to go out and seek them. So
yes, but you're out of the comfort zone. The minute your phone doesn't work, right? The minute you don't speak the language, not too many people speak the language, you're out of the comfort zone. And like I said, the Medina was such a maze, and what they do, so there's these vendors left and right, and think of it just like any other maze. And you think, okay, I got this. I know how to go back. I go see the snake charmers or something, and I know how to go back to my hotel. And you think, okay, one right, two left, blah, 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 right? But then they close some of these alleyways. They close them. So it's almost like a mousetrap. And
wow.
then forget about your two lefts and one right, because where are you going to go? You somehow have to trace, you go back and then take a different route. And it's challenging, all right, but it's also fun. It depends on the attitude, right? Because if you freak out and you start crying, I guess it's not that much fun. But you gotta think of it as an adventure and always stay safe. It was a very safe city, but you have to kind of have that attitude that it's an adventure and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's it. You've got to be okay with being a little bit lost.
Right, and uncomfortable, right? Again, this is how you grow. You see, in America, in the United States, a lot of people don't travel abroad because they're intimidated by the foreign language, about the currency exchange. So they prefer to either take a cruise or to travel to England, to another English-speaking country. Well, I kind of like to go to a country where I don't speak the language, just because it's so much more fun trying to figure it all out. And I don't know, it's less predictable. So
yeah. Now, talking of the Americas, there are a couple of places there that you've mentioned. So why don't we start in Palmaya in Mexico?
yes, so now that's quite the place. So Mexico is very intense. It's a bit different, I guess. Once you're out of the resort, it's completely different than in a resort. It's just a completely different world. So the cities in the rural areas, and then you have the resort. The resorts are very much so like any resort you see in Greece or in Italy or Portugal, right, or Florida. So they're very modern. You have everything you want. But the reason I like Palmaya is because it's a plant-based resort. So all the food is plant-based, which is what we eat. So there's no, can I see the menu? Do you mind changing this to that? Do you mind, do you have this? So it's a very comfortable place for us. It's very conducive to health. There's a lot of yoga and meditation, but it's upscale. So it's not some sort of hippie place, because there's plenty of those. So this is an upscale resort where you have a lot of experiences and a lot of healthy food. So it's not an all-inclusive where you eat more than you should and then you just sit around, right? And you come home kind of depressed. And no, it's a very active kind of resort. And again, the food is very healthy, which helps a lot.
And Mexico is a country of contrasts. I've not been myself, but people tell me it can be quite shocking to see just what a massive difference there is between the people who visit and the people who live in Mexico. Is it that obvious?
It is obvious. And even the trip from the airport to the resort, we have been there multiple times, so we had ventured outside of the resorts. But even the trip from the airport to the resort is a little bit eye-opening, because there's roadblocks where they check either for passports, or maybe if they see something is not right, maybe they check the cars. So that's not something that we're necessarily used to. And then we have been to Tulum, and then we have taken some side trips on our own to go see some of the pyramids. But I have a funny in Tulum. So Tulum is very, how should I say this, intense, right? There's vendors everywhere, and it's tight, and we just kind of parked. We just kind of left the car somewhere, and at least where we were, it seems like they have a grid kind of system, so it's not very hard to get around. So we kind of walked around. Maybe you had lunch or somewhere, and then because the streets seem to be in 90-degree angles, I was like, okay, we're just gonna go to our car through what I thought was an alleyway, right? I was like, okay, so instead of going one more block to the left and then go into our car, we can just cut through here. And Alex, I ended up in somebody's living room.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there was a man sleeping, or house. There was a man sleeping on the bed, and a child playing on the floor, and the lady cooking. And I was like, ah. And I turned back towards my family. I was like, what? And they were just unfazed. They just kind of looked at me, and I was like, ah. So there's that. You just never know what you stumble upon and what situation you get yourself into. Because again, to my eyes, I just thought, hey, that's what it is. But no, it was actually somebody's house with the door open.
Yeah.
So yes, the joys and the fun of travel experiences. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you got to meet another family.
Yes.
But it was unintentionally. Yes.
And certainly uninvited. But no, that was So that was memorable. But Tulum is very beautiful. Has amazing beaches. It's very. It seems like it attracts a lot of young people. A lot of, I wouldn't necessarily call them hippies, but free-spirited people. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, I liked it. But it's intense. Yeah.
And possibly it's an up and coming destination, isn't it?
Now, a lot of people at least from the southern United States fly to Mexico for vacation. So because it's not very far. So
yeah.
Yeah, the queues at the airport are huge.
Oh wow.
Yes.
A lot of history there still being uncovered.
Yes, and it's very exotic. There's monkeys everywhere, and you drink coconut, and there's a lot of pyramids have been discovered, but even the pyramids that are visitable, not all the parts have been excavated or studied. So there's still a lot out there for us to discover and for them to discover as well. So it's exciting. It's kind of exciting to know that there are still places out there that we still have a lot to learn about. Yes,
and the secrets and the languages that they used many thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So, and different alphabets, and I think there was a book that came out a few years ago about a completely different language that was discovered, that was used over there. So yes, there's still a lot to explore.
Absolutely. Now, another place in the Americas, which is a little nearer to, I think, where you live today, but of course, everything is relative when you're from the UK. You've been to a place called Sedona in Arizona. What did you like about that area?
So although I've lived in the United States for 24 years, we spend most of our vacation time exploring Europe, in some parts of Asia and some parts of Africa, just because my family is over there. So, I realized that I didn't get to see that much of the United States. I mean, I've seen a lot, but so in the recent years, we started exploring some of the beautiful parts of the United States. And it is a big country. Like you said, when we live in Europe, we can just take a train to France and, an overnight train to Germany. But here, even to Arizona, where Sedona is, it is, I think, a 4 or 5 hour flight. So it's a big deal to even get over there. But Sedona is in the mountains, and the mountains are completely different because it's desert, right? So these treeless red rocks, like incredibly red. So it's just something different altogether. And Sedona is, I would say, a resort town. But as you could tell, we have this wellness inclination or desire to be in these places conducive to health and wellness. So Sedona is like that. The restaurants, the resorts in the area are very healthy and encouraging the tourists to hike and explore. And you have to go there though in the right season, because it can get pretty hot in the summer. So we've been twice, and both the times were in January, and that was a good time to visit for us. Just because we like to be outside and we like to hike, so that was a great time of the year for us. So yes, definitely recommend Sedona to anybody that I don't know, maybe likes to experience something new, like a sound bath or some sort of community ceremony or a forgiveness ceremony. I know these things are very new to some people, and they were definitely new to me as well. But there's so much to learn, and there's so much to grow, and some of these environments actually help you do so. So yeah, they're out there. We just need to seek them. They definitely exist. And it feels good, Alex, to be surrounded by like-minded people too, right? It feels good not to swim upstream all the time. It feels good to have conversations with people that are like-minded. So for people that are into yoga or qigong or movement and sound baths and healthy eating, yeah, I would say Sedona and Enchantment are great. Yeah.
Now, all the places we've talked about so far, they all seem to have a similar ingredient, mountains. And one thing I know about you is you love hiking. So is that influential when you choose places?
Yes. So Switzerland is one of our favorite countries to visit for that same reason. Yes, we love to hike, but it has to do with the fact that I grew up in the mountains, and in such a small town where my parents' house was, so there was another row of homes, and then there was the forest and the mountains. So I didn't have to travel, and I didn't have to get on a bus. It's just, that was my backyard. So I still miss them, and I get very excited when we go to the mountains. So yes, we do hike a lot. We have done some pretty cool hikes. Of course, we here in the United States, we live close to the Appalachian Trail that starts, or Appalachian. It starts here in Georgia. And actually yesterday, I hiked a little bit at the beginning of the trail, which is the Amicalola Falls Trail. I hiked that yesterday, but we have hiked little bits and pieces of the AT. You know, it's a very long hike. Usually people take about 4 months to complete it. We have hiked on the Camino Frances and then Camino Portuguese, and then we have hiked on Via Transylvanica for 15 days, and we are going back. I'm going to be back on Via Transylvanica in about a week, so that's really exciting. It's a cool project, cool country project for Romania. It's a 1,400 kilometer trail that crosses. So the trail starts in Bukovina, where I'm from, and then it crosses over the Carpathians once into the Transylvanian plateau, and then it crosses over the Carpathians again and finishes off where the Danube River enters Romania. And yeah, it's exciting. It's very diverse, scenery-wise and people-wise. Romania is a very diverse country because of the geographical position, right? We have a lot of Polish and German and Ukrainians and Jewish people, and it's very, and we have had people from all over the world that settled in Romania over the years. So the country is very, very diverse. So it's not like what you see on the side of the Carpathians will be completely different architecture-wise or people-wise or food-wise than what you see on the other side of the Carpathians, because the mountains have created this barrier, right? And where these people, although they spoke the same language, they developed differently. And then Bukovina was under the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so then you have that influence, right, compared to the rest of the country. So it's very, I don't know, it's very exciting. Now, I did like the Caminos, but they're not as, I mean, they're pretty similar. The days are pretty similar on the caminos that I have done. On Via Transylvanica, they're very much so different. Yes. So, oh, and the other thing that's good about Via Transylvanica is that you do not have to sleep on the trail, like on the Appalachian Trail or AT. You have to sleep in a tent. So Via was designed in such a manner that at the end of every day, you end up in some sort of village, or sometimes in a big city, or in some sort of dwelling where there is accommodations, and you can take a shower, and you can have a meal, and it's supporting the locals, right? It's supporting these local economies that otherwise would have not had too many ways in which to have an income, or so there's these they call them punct gastronomic, which would be these little houses in which the ladies that live there have been certified and have been allowed to cook. And so it's not a restaurant, but you just go and you're welcomed with this spread. And mind you, we are on a plant-based diet, so they can accommodate us, and they have been accommodating us for these 15 days that we were on Via. So that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, that's one of our favorite trails.
Yeah. Do you think there's something very different and alluring about going hiking? I do a bit of cycling from time to time, and I often think that, I don't know, it's a form of slow travel. Do you get similar feelings when you go hiking?
It is. It's therapeutical in a sense, right? I mean, these days they have this term called forest bathing, right? Where, or you can take a meditative hike. But the minute you're away from your phone and from the computer, and you're out there in the woods, and there's not that much visual stimulation, unless, of course, you stumble upon a viewpoint or a village, you're just there with your thoughts, and you're moving too, right? So because you're moving, you're exerting yourself, you have a destination, don't really know what's ahead. I would say hiking is like a metaphor for life, right? You have a path. It may split. You may have to make a decision. There might be some dangers along the way, but you have a direction of sorts, and also a time frame, just like in life. So yes, I would say so. Yeah, about hiking, it's exciting. It is therapeutical. What I particularly like about Via Transylvanica is that my husband and I have been hiking on Via with some of my university friends from Romania. And, when you have kids, you get together, but you barely get to talk because there's so much going on. Well, while on the trail, because it's just us, I mean, of course, there's other people that we don't know, but we have time to catch up. And what I've noticed too, and I know this may sound kind of silly, but over the years, we've manifested some things on the trail. Like, we've had these deep conversations about what we wanted for ourselves and what we wanted for our future. And my husband and I have a small wellness business. I'm a nutritionist, and he gives sound baths. And this is something we talked about at some point on the trail. And then I would guess we manifested the Fox Chalet in Bukovina too. We talked about a place where we can share these gifts with the world, and where we could create, so since we travel so much, where we could create a similar environment for the locals and for the tourists of Bukovina, where we can create these experiences where you don't just rush, right? Where you just, take a deep breath and maybe do some exercises and eat some healthy food and marvel at things. So yes, I would say hiking is more than just a walk in the woods, or it's more than exercise.
Yeah. And well, that nicely segues into your project in Romania. So obviously for many, many years, you would always go back to Romania, and you've hinted at some of the reasons why you and your husband wanted to start something there. So how on earth do you choose where to do such a project? I mean, you make it, you just said, oh well, we just picked an old barn, and yeah, that was it. But I'm sure there's a little bit more to it than that. Tell me how you chose where you chose.
Yes, it's very intense, I would say. Mostly since, and this is the disclaimer, I have not seen it completed yet, right? I have not seen the finished product yet, although there's been a lot of guests. I do all the marketing. I personally have not seen it yet. I'm about to see it in a couple of weeks. So that's in itself. But gosh, there's so much we can do online these days. We have apps for the AC system. We have apps for the outdoor illumination. We have apps for the gates. And now, of course, we have a backup plan if those apps don't work because we have staff. But there's a lot you can do online. Mostly when it comes to the billing, when it comes to the advertising, when it comes to dealing with the government and the taxes and everything else, it can all be done remotely, which is fantastic, right? This is the world we live in, and we just have to take these opportunities. But as far as the location, well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history. I know Romania, because it has been a closed country in Romania, a lot of people don't know that much about it. So this part of Romania called Bukovina, I mentioned that it was under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It was like the last piece of land that they conquered, or and actually what's in Romania right now, and where I come from, it's southern Bukovina. Northern Bukovina is under Ukraine. We have lost northern Bukovina after World War II, and what's now the country of Moldova, that was also part of Romania prior to World War II. So when I say Bukovina, I actually should say southern Bukovina, which is the part that is in Romania. So we grew up there, and like I said, we grew up in an area that had this flux of tourists constantly. There is a monastery within the city limits of Gurah-Morli, which is a very, very, very small town. It's called Voronezh, and Voronezh was completed in 1504. And the reason Voronezh is so famous, so 1477, 1504. No, I'm sorry, 1477. It was Stefan Cel Mare that passed away in 1504. But if you think about it, this is the time of the European Renaissance, right? And this is the time, or the time frame, in which Da Vinci was painting the Last Supper. So in Romania, in this monastery called Voronezh, there is outdoor fresco, kind of the same style or the same craft like in the Last Supper. It was like wet on wet plaster, but it's on the outside, and there's some on the inside as well. But it's the outside that makes it so special, because it's still there from 1477, right? So that's the attraction of these monasteries, and specifically Voronezh. And then because people couldn't read back then, these outdoor frescoes are depictions of scenes from the Bible. So it was just kind of like Instagram, I would say, religious Instagram in the late 1400s. So that's the big attraction of the area, Voronezh and the other monasteries. But of course, we have all the other attractions that you would expect in mountain towns, like ski slopes and hikes and panoramic wheels and mountain coasters. So there's a lot of that as well. But the piece that was missing in our area was this little wellness piece, right? This was missing. So we have cultural tourism, and then we have domestic tourism, people that just want to come spend time in the mountains and get a little break from the big cities. But we were kind of missing the wellness area in Bukovina, and this is what we're hoping to foster there actually. Now, of course, it's a micro resort, which means it's very, very small, but we have a massage therapist on staff, and then we have a sauna, and we have a hot tub, and we built a yoga barn, which is a multifunctional room that can be used for sports activities or for meditation, or it can, it can also be used for conferences. And it's located in a valley. There's a lot of trails and a lot of wildlife, but it's safe too. I mean, we called it Fox Chalet because there was a fox that kept on coming there during the construction, and it stole. So first, it stole the car keys, which, it's a big deal if a fox steals the car key.
Maybe there's a fox driving around even now.
So, but then I guess she didn't find it interesting, so that she dropped the keys somewhere. And then the fox, could have been a different fox, I'm just going to call it the fox, stole a welly, which is a boot, right? I guess she was just kind of curious. So having had all these visits from a fox or multiple foxes, we thought that, hey, this is going to be the name for it. So hence Fox Chalet was open. And it is a family business where everybody is bringing some sort of gift, right? So my brother has lived in England since 99, and he's a 99, and he's a great engineer. So he's bringing that aspect to the business. And I'm the marketing person, and my husband is the wellness person. So we're all kind of bringing in our gifts to share with the world and with that part of the country. So this is kind of the vision for Fox Chalet, and people have responded very well. We have just been open since mid-March. Thank God we opened out of season. The learning curve is just woo. And people have responded to it very well. And it's exciting because it's a passion project, right? It's different than a project that's our livelihood, right? This is not a project that's like, if you don't have guests, if you don't have this many people. No, this is a passion project. So we're, as a result, we're a lot more relaxed and just enjoying it. We're enjoying the whole process. So yes, it's exciting to have it. And I'm excited to go actually see it and experience it for myself. We have a soft opening at the end of June. We're going to see a lot of friends, and a lot of people from the industry are going to come hang out with us. And that's really exciting. And so maybe you can come visit. There is a flight from Luton to Suceava, which is the closest airport, about 40 minutes away. It's a direct flight from London to Suceava. So there you go.
Well, I was going to ask you at some point about the airport, because I always love to look at Google Sat Nav. I look at the geographical, and I look at the Sat Nav to get a feel for the if there are any hills or mountains. And I thought, I wonder how often flights go there. But you've answered the question.
Yes, we do. We are fortunate to have that flight because England has been very generous with Romanian people over the years, in the sense that we have been given opportunities in England that at some point in time we did not have in Romania, myself included, being that I was allowed to study in England for some time. And because of that, there had been a flux of people traveling from Suceava County, which is where Bukovina is, into London. So as a result, we have this direct flight from London to Suceava, which is serving us very well, because Bukovina, it is kind of far. It is far from the capital city, which is Bucharest. It's a 45-minute flight from Bucharest, and the highway system is so we're very grateful to have an international airport so close, and flights not only from London, there's some flights from Germany and Italy as well. So we're very excited, and sometimes they are expensive, the flights, but if it's out of season, it just becomes like any other 20-30 pound flight, to anywhere. But in season, yes, the flights can be quite expensive.
Now, you mentioned that that people have been attracted to it because, well, it's not like a city going into the mountains. So would you describe what your passion project is as a retreat?
It is a retreat. We actually call it a Selatruk Valley Wellness Retreat. Yes, it is a retreat, but then it can be anything you want it to be. So if for the sake of solo traveling and taking it all in, if somebody decides to just go and stay there and not leave the property. There's plenty to do and plenty not to do, because it's nice not to do anything and just stare at beautiful things and beautiful nature. But then if some people want to visit some of these medieval monasteries, or there's a medieval fortress in Suceava, and then there's a medieval inn. So if they want to have a taste of culture, they can. Everything is very close. The closest medieval monastery to Fox Chalet, I would say, is about 20 minutes away. So there's that, if people want to do that. So it depends. It depends on what people are seeking. But yes, we have a little bit of everything. And then the food can be made very healthy. We just had some guests from New Zealand, and they wanted to have to taste Bukovinian fare, which is fine. But then if people want to have gluten-free or plant-based, or then we can kind of accommodate that with some local chefs and caterers. And so that's a possibility too. And people can eat outside. And so there's just a little bit for now. Bukovina is highly touristic, so there's tons of places. But the difference at Fox is that it has this slow living wellness aspect that we're hoping to deliver. So yeah, that's the exciting part.
Yeah. Now, talking of food, I know this is something you're personally interested in. Let's talk about Romanian food, and I guess specifically
Bukovinian food.
Bukovinian food. Can you tell me, as someone not from Romania, what I could expect?
So I think if it's eaten just on a trip, now I'm talking also as a nutritionist, so accept that. If it's eaten just on a trip, it's fine, but otherwise it's heavy, right? Because mountain people that had to work with their hands, and that had 6 months of winter, right? They needed hearty meals with a lot of fat and a lot of meat and pickled vegetables, because 6 months of winter doesn't mean that you have lettuce in December, right? So traditionally that has been the Romanian or Bukovinian food, very, very hearty. Now we have these very comfortable lives. We don't do much with our bodies, right? Say we take a flight to Suceava, then we rent a car, or we have a driver deliver us to Fox. We just sit. So it's a different story. I'm not saying it shouldn't be consumed, but it should be a treat. It should be a vacation treat as a nutritionist. So typically it would be meat. Yes, lots of meat, but not so much spiced as in when you think of Indian cuisine, right? And you think of maybe Persian cuisine, not so much. The excitement is not so much in the spice itself, but the cuts of meat, the way they're prepared. And so meats, lots of cheeses that are typical to the area. It's a highly pastoral area. There's still cows and sheep grazing. You'll see them from Fox too, grazing those mountains. So when it comes to the quality of food, it's very high, because how many times do you have the opportunity to eat something that was harvested in the past week or so, or day or so? So quality is very high, and it's a great opportunity to taste some of that food, to taste some of the local cheeses. And then a lot of the desserts are made with a fruit that was foraged from the mountains or the foothills of the Carpathians. So you have that aspect. And again, the teas are also from foraged herbs around the area. So it is an opportunity. But if you hike and if you move, then it's okay to have this local treat. But the food is it's actually quite heavy, tasty, but quite heavy.
Yeah. So one phrase I noticed on your website was being at the crossroads. So food is but one aspect of being at a crossroads. Would you say that there has therefore been many influences over the centuries? So there's pure there's the food, there's a traditional food, but of course, because people have constantly been moving across Europe, there are many other influences. Would you say those influences are still present today?
Yes. So I grew up, Alex, with matzo ball soup, but I didn't think it was. Just thought it was soup, right? I grew up with kremschnitt, and that matzo ball would be something that Jewish people consume, right? I grew up with kremschnitt or knederli, where this is something that the Germans have brought over. Or I grew up with some Polish dishes. But growing up with those foods, I didn't think of them as exotic or different. It was just what has been passed down from a German neighbor or from a Jewish neighbor or from a Polish neighbor or Ukrainian neighbor, you name it. Because you see, people, when they move to another country, myself included, they may lose the language. And you'll see the second, third generation, they may not speak the language. They may lose a lot about the culture. But food tends to kind of be passed on from generation to generation. So right now, Bukovina is mainly Romanian people that live there, although we did have a flux of Ukrainians that moved in because of the war. But in the early 1900s, Romanians were a minority in Bukovina. Believe it, like under 10%, and it was a bit of a melting pot, I would say it. So in the early 1900s, Bukovina was completely different. So my grandpa, who was born in 1908, he went to school in German because we were under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And then there's still Polish villages. So close to Fox or to Górach-Moli, where I'm from, there's a village where people speak Polish as their first language, and a remote village on a mountain, and the service at the Catholic Church is in Polish. They speak Romanian with an accent as a second language. I believe they have the Dom Polski, they have the kindergarten in Polish, and so it's just very different. Yes, it's over the years you could see the influences in so many aspects, but definitely in the food. But then you have the Mediterranean influences, like you would, right, because of the proximity to Turkey and Greece, right? So we have the stuffed domas, as the Greek called them. We call them sarmale, so or the stuffed peppers. So we have those influences, and of course we have some Slavic influences because of the proximity to the Slavic countries that kind of surround Romania. And one interesting thing about Romania is, I don't think a lot of people know it, we don't speak a Slavic language, we speak a Romance language that's Latin based. So we speak a language that's very similar to Italian and French and Portuguese and Spanish, while everybody else around us speaks a Slavic language, with the exception of the Hungarians. They have their own language altogether. So yeah, that's kind of unique.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty cool and very international in a sense.
Yes, but the language, Alex, just like the food, right? The language the languages are dynamic as they are, but the language has evolved over the years because of the influences. So we have Turkish words in the Romanian language, and we have Slavic words, and we have German words. So the language has absorbed some words from the languages of the people that inhabited Romania over the years.
Do you have different language flavors? When I was in Singapore once, I was told about a halfway language, which they called Singlish. So every other word was either Singaporean or English. So I could understand half of what people were saying.
That's kind of cool, kind of like Spanglish or Romblish.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have dialects. So the words we use in Bukovina are we have a uniformal or a Romanian language that's the official Romanian language that everybody understands. However, there's plenty of words in Bukovina that we use that are not used in Transylvania or in Banat or in Wallachia, or and they have words as well that I just look at them. I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying. We mostly have German words in that right now they're kind of halfway between German and Romanian, but we have a lot of German words in Bukovina because of the Austrian and later German influence. So yeah, it's very interesting, and I love them. I loved, but a lot of them are being lost because they're not used as much, right? But I love hearing them because they remind me of my childhood and my grandparents and so forth.
That's the thing about language, isn't it? It's constantly evolving. You know, when you read a novel or a biography by somebody from 50, even just 50 years ago, you see and read language or certain words that are just not in common use anymore. So I think that process is evolutionary and constant.
But you're right. So if you're trying to read Othering Heights, if my 15-year-old daughter Ilinka is trying to read Othering Heights in English, it's very hard. But if she reads a Romanian translation of Othering Heights in the modern Romanian language, it's a different story. See, so she's reading the same story or the same book, but because the translation is in the modern Romanian language, it's very easy to get. But if she's trying to read Jane Austen, right, in the original language, it's kind of hard. And it's the same with Romanian. If she's trying to read some older writings, I mean, not that much old, but she doesn't get them because those words used in some of the writings from the late 1800s are not in use anymore in Romania. And being that she's 15, she lives abroad, she doesn't really know those words. So it's very interesting like that. And yes, languages are dynamic and constantly changing, and because we travel so much more and because of the internet and the prevalence of the English language, yes, languages are changing a lot.
Now, talking about a different kind of travel, you have some pictures of some horses, which are I believe they're called hutes, is it, or hutul horses?
Close. Hutul.
Ah, right, okay. That's because they used to be used, or rather, they lived with mountain people.
That's right. And there's a population, the Hutul are a particular mountain population that's a mix of Ukrainian, Romanian. So think of northern Romania, southern, western Ukraine. So these are the Hutul people, and then you have the Hutul horse. But I would say you did your homework and you checked out the Instagram, so that's good. I tried to make the Instagram a cultural experience in itself, so it's really good.
Well, it just shows that there are elements of nomadic ways of life still existing in what we think as a modern world, and people are still preserving an older way of life. I mean, nomadic people didn't have borders, did they? They just moved to the rhythm of life.
And you see them because we mentioned Northern Africa, we mentioned Morocco. There's a lot of people that still do that. There's a lot of people that don't have a physical cinder block home. They actually live in these tents, for the lack of a better word, and they just travel. And in Romania too, in Bukovina, you can still experience some of the old ways, like people, even the neighbor next door to Fox, he is there just for the summer when he brings the cattle so they would graze in the alpine valleys, and then for the winter he moves them to the village where his regular dwelling is, like house and barn. So he's there just for the summer. And for people that are excited or possibly considering Via Transylvanica, you get to see a lot of that. So high in the Carpathians, in the Alpine valleys, you would see people that are there just for the summer with the sheep or cow, and they have these like giant dogs. They're there to fight the bears and protect the sheep, and they're there for 3-4 months. And think about their lives compared to our lives in some sort of cubicle downtown Atlanta, right? So they're just there with the elements for 3 or 4 months or 4 or 5 months out of the year. So some of those traditions are still kept. I mean, it's a big deal when the animals go up the mountain. It's a big deal when they come down the mountain in the fall. There's usually festivals around that. So yes, some of them, all the rhythms of life are kept. The mountains and the mountain villages, Alex, have this ability to preserve, right? Just because maybe there's not big roads that connect the villages to major cities. So they act like time capsules, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. One thing you mentioned is about longer winters. I've been to Switzerland, and I went at the beginning of May, and I thought for a moment that I'd made a mistake and gone to Switzerland too early, because there was still a lot of snow around. So is May normally the month that the seasons change, or do you get longer winters than that?
It's a good question for which I don't have a good answer, because the snow, the winters of my childhood were like that, were just insane. We would get like 6 months of winter. Sometimes we couldn't open the door because it would snow so much overnight, or my father would put on these big boots and walk, and I would jump in his footsteps till we reach a major road, so I could actually go to high school or school, because we never closed the schools because of the weather. So the winters were like that, about 6 months, I would say, till May, growing up. And then, oh gosh, for the past 15 years or so, it barely snowed. I mean, it would snow once or twice a winter, and it was just more like a dusting, or you name it. So the resorts kind of suffered. But then this last year, as we were building Fox, it snowed so much, Alex. It was magical and it's beautiful, but it snowed. I think it snowed from October till I don't know, a few weeks ago. So it was magical. I mean, think of the thick snowflakes, and that quietude that you experience when it snows. So magical, beautiful scenery, but hard to predict what's going to happen next year. I actually have I've been talking to some influencers that want to come and film and do what influencers do, and they're asking me about the weather. I'm like, no idea.
But it could be climate related, couldn't it?
It could be, but for the longest time we thought we were warming up, right?
Yeah.
So yes, there's definitely some shifts. We like it because it's beautiful in the winter. It's beautiful in the summer. We had an incredibly short spring, and we're probably going to have a shorter fall too. But definitely 4 seasons. Yes, it's hard to predict, but we did like it. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Now, one thing I like about most destinations are, I love history and museums. And so I just wanted to briefly ask you about, I noticed that there's an egg museum, and I was looking at pictures of really pretty designs on eggs, and I was thinking, I wonder if the Romanians are, a run for the money, versus the Russian eggs.
Well, Romanians are very artistic, right? So over the years, you could see a lot of I don't know if you've seen pictures of the Romanian folk costume. It's just very intricate. There's a lot of flowers, a lot of motifs that are maybe tell a story about the person who's wearing the iya. Iya is our folk shirt. So maybe if this was a family of millers, right? Maybe they would have in the intricate design, there would be an embroidery of a wheat or of some sort of flower, or so these stories, these shirts historically tell the stories, and intricate and beautifully colored. And you see sometimes these designs on villages, on people's homes. So there's a village called Chocanești that's not very far from Fox Chalet, where the houses are incredibly ornate with flowers and beautiful things and motifs. And then the same motifs now you see on the eggs. So yes, just like a like a Russian Fabergé, but this is more they're not as intricate. However, there's a lot of work put into them. We usually take them out at Easter. They're decorative. They take a lot of work. I mean, there's a technique to decorating these eggs. They're usually empty on the inside, and this particular museum in Vama, which is close to Fox Chalet, has a wonderful collection of eggs from the area and some eggs from other cultures around Romania that are of the similar kind, and different sizes too, and they're very, very pretty. The technique is kind of interesting. So you cover the egg, you empty it, and then you cover it in wax, and then you paint a little bit, uncover, paint a little bit, uncover. So it's not like you just paint the egg. There is actually a technique that's specific to the area, and that's a big attraction for people that like art and like motifs, and I know like something unique that's over there too, the Egg Museum of Vama.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's very interesting. Now, I wanted to finally ask you, because my goodness, an hour goes by in an absolute flash. I just wanted to get your feeling for the future of tourism in your area. How do you, obviously you've got a very exciting project, which you're going to be inspecting in a few weeks, but how do you feel about tourism in Romania, and perhaps what are the opportunities? Let's say it like that.
So the war in Ukraine has affected the dynamics to some extent, but then now the war has been going on for so long that people have somehow become desensitized to it, I would say. Fortunately, Bukovina is far from the area where the war is actually happening. So the war has affected it. The good thing this year is, well, I don't want to say good thing because there's another war going on. So a lot of people are not traveling as far as they're used to. So being in some of these travel circles, we anticipate a lot of tourists from the area, maybe from the Balkans. Like we have reservations coming up this summer from Estonia, and then from Poland, and some from France. So we expect people to, at least this year, we expect people to travel, I would say locally, but within Europe. We expect that to happen. As for tourism in Romania, I think, there's so much potential, untapped potential. And there's so much to see, and there's so much that people still don't know about. And like we talked about, it's super close. I mean, you can take night trains. I mean, it's easy to get to, and there's still so much. I mean, there's beautiful cities, and if people want to be in big cities and want to experience culture like that, or there's villages, there's nature, there's bear watching. Like you can go into, there's these little setups where you can actually go into the wilderness and sit in some sort of glass box and observe bears. So forget about the zoo and forget about all these places that torture animals. You actually get to see them in their habitat, which I think is fantastic. So there's a lot of experiences, and of course Transylvania is very exciting. There's a lot of castles, some medieval, some 19th century castles as well, because Romania was a monarchy. Queen Marie was a granddaughter of Queen Victoria, your queen, and so there's that aspect of Romania, the years of the monarchy and how the architecture changed during those years. And like I said, I mentioned the Austro-Hungarians, and so there's a lot to see and a lot to explore. So I'm very optimistic when it comes to people wanting to explore. I'm not a big fan of Bucharest myself, because Bucharest was, but I don't want to discourage people. Just Bucharest was mutilated by the communists. There's still an old historical center. There's still a lot to see, but the Bucharest that used to be there before the communists, unfortunately, is no longer there. So it's a city of contrasts. But yes, I would say the best part of Romania is not the capital city.
Yeah. Well, Veronica, we've covered an awful lot. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and to to learn about your exciting experiences and project on the horizon. So a very good luck for the future of that. And yeah, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us today.
Thank you so much, Alex. This has been great. As you could tell, I'm very excited to talk about my little part of the world, and Bukovina is beautiful and it is exciting. And Fox Chalet, I'm hoping for the Fox to be a gift to the world and a gift to our guests. And I'm hoping to get to meet you in person, since now we established that England's not that far away. So maybe we can actually do this in person as well.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.